In the name of Allah, the most gracious and the most merciful. Assalamu alaikum, dear students. I hope you all will be fine. Today is Thursday, 7th April 2020. This lecture is for grade 9. The subject is biology, and the topic we will learn today is emergence of cell theory. So, students, I want you to open your biology book and go to page 68. I hope you will be on page 68 in front of you. There is a topic, emergence of cell theory. So we will learn this topic today. Now, what is mean by emergence of cell theory? In biology, we mostly or in our daily life also we are talking about that living organism are made up of cell. Okay, so cell is the basic structure and functional unit, and every cell is arised from the pre-existing cell. Now these postulate or these information, how we get it, okay, what are the story behind it and how it emerged as a theory. So we will learn about this, and it is a short historical story, okay, that which scientists were involved in this effort. Okay, so if you look to the first paragraph, it says that with continuous development in microscopy, cell of organisms were studied in detail. Here we will see the historical step that resulted in the emergence of a theory called cell theory. Now remember, when Zacharias Johnson he made a microscope, then everybody was very keen to look upon those things which they cannot see it. Okay, and in this regard, the new microscope with the time were advancing. Okay, and the in the story or in the process in which the cell was studied, they made some statement or they made some steps about it. Okay, so we will learn about that steps, and that step is emerged, the steps are emerged as a theory, and we call that a cell theory. Okay, so in 1665, Robert Hooke, an English scientist, was the first person to observe cells with a small microscope. He was able to magnify a thin slice of cork 30 times and was able to see individual cork cells. So the first person who was keen to study or to discover the cell was Robert Hooke. Okay, when he was an English scientist in 1675, he took a cork in which is like this, and he made a slices from it, and then he observed that with the microscope. Now the microscope he was using, the magnification power of that microscope was 30 times. It means that they can increase the image up to 30 times. Okay, so at that time when he saw it on a microscope, the microscope gave them the image like this, and the small dots what you are seeing here and seeing here, he called it cells. Okay, now remember this is a dead cell. Why? Because the cork which he took from, it was made from the bark of a tree. Okay, these are the plant tissues, and these tissues were made from or taken from the bark of a tree, oak, particularly Spanish oak. He took Spanish. These corks were made from the Spanish oak tree bark. Okay, now when he observed these cell, at that time, another scientist, Anton Levon Hooke, he made much more powerful microscope. He magnified pond water 300 times and saw tiny unicellular creature in it. So Anton Levon Hooke, he the microscope he made, it was more powerful because the magnification power of that microscope was 300 times, and he took a drop of water from the pond, and he observed it. And when he saw that drop of water, he saw some tiny creature. And secondly, what he saw, he saw that these creature were swimming. That's why he said that, that's why he called this creature animalcules, okay, because they were moving, they were living. So he was the first person to observe unicellular organism, okay. And the scientists believe today that this unicellular organism was bacteria, okay. He was the first person who saw the bacteria, or who saw the living cell, okay. So he was the second person. He is the picture of Robert Hooke, and he is the picture of Anton Leeuwenhoek. Now in 1809, French scientist Jean-Baptiste Lamarck also observed cell when he examined the parts of animals and plants under microscope. He concluded that all living organisms are made up of cellular tissue. Remember, Robert Hooke and Anton Leeuwenhoek observed cell in 16th century. So in 18th century, the microscope were improved, the quality of lenses were improved, okay. That's why the image they were giving were much better from that of the old microscope which Robert Hooke and Anton Leeuwenhoek used, okay. So Jean Baptiste Lamarck, he observed the part of animals and plant under microscope, and when he observed these parts, he concluded that living organisms are made up of cellular tissues, okay. He observed that these all living organisms are made up of tissues that are made up of cells, okay. In 1831, a British botanist, Robert Brown, described the nucleus as a characteristic spherical body in plant cell. This made a new concept about the cell already given by Robert Hooke, that the cell are empty chamber. So Robert Brown, which is also another British botanist, he observed a nucleus inside the cell. He observed nucleus inside the cell, and he made a new concept, because Robert Hooke, when he observed that cell, he stated that cells are empty inside, they are hollow. But Robert Brown, he break that concept, and he came with this new concept, and there are something inside the cell, and he called that spherical, and what he saw was a spherical body, and he described it as a nucleus, okay. This is Jean-Baptiste Lamarck, and this is Robert Brown. Now in 1838, a German botanist, Matthias Schleiden, claimed that all plants were made up of cell. Now in 1838, this botanist who belongs to who was from Germany, he was studying plants, and he concluded that plants are also made up of cell. And another part of the Germany, another scientist who was zoologist, Theodor Schwann, he were observing animals, and he also came to the same conclusion that animals are made up of cells. So they both propose that all living organisms are made up of cell, because the one observe plants and the other observe animals, and that's how they come to the first statement of the cell theory, that all living organisms are made up of cell, okay. So after that, in 1839, a Czech scientist, Jan Evangelista Purkinje, gave the name protoplasm to the fluid substance of the cell. Now Purkinje observed the cell, and when he observed the cell, he observed a fluid inside the cell, okay. he observed a fluid inside the cell. Okay, this is the boundary, the cell membrane. Okay, this is the cell membrane of the cell, and inside the fluid, what he saw, he called them a protoplasm. Okay, that it is the protoplasm of the cell. Then in 1855, German scientist Rudolf Virchow changed the idea of many scientists by giving a statement, every cell come from a cell. Now this was a major breakthrough, because before this statement that cell come from the pre-existing cell, people thought that cell are coming from nothing. Okay, they are originating from nothing, but he disproved that concept, and he gave that this statement. Okay, and in 1962, the French scientist Louis Pasteur, he provided experimental proof for virtue idea, and he demonstrated that microorganism bacteria could be formed only from the existing bacteria. So Louis Pasteur, when he observed the bacteria on a microscope, so bacteria divide after 20 minutes. So one cell, it divides in half, and it gives two cell. So that's why he experimentally proved that a cell arises from the pre-existing cell. Okay, now moving to forward, they say that after the first observation of life under the microscope, it took 2 centuries of research to formulate the cell theory. Schwann and Sladen summarized their observation into 3 conclusions about cell. So it says that Anton Leeuwenhoek and Robert Hooke, when they saw the first sign of life, then it was after 2 centuries the cell theory was formulated, because the microscope in 16th century was not that much developed. It was in 18th century the microscope were improved, and then after 2 centuries they formulated the cell theory. The main contribution in this cell theory was of the Schleiden and Schwann, because they observed the cell, and they came to these 3 conclusions about the cell. And the first conclusion was that all living, or all animals and plants, are made up of cells and cell products such as cell organelles. Some organisms are unicellular and some are multicellular. And the second theory conclusion they came, they said that cell are the structure and functional unit of living organism. And the third, they said new cell arise from the pre-existing cell by the cell division. Okay, so these were the 3 postulates they concluded. Okay, and these are the main 3 postulates of cell theory. I hope you will have understood this lecture. My homework for this lecture is that there are other organelles in the cell, so you should search that which scientist or who discovered these other organelles. Okay, thank you. Allah Hafiz.